Hey guys, Kimmy Vapes here. Welcome back to my channel. I have another review for you. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Asmodus Spruzza Squonk kit. Let's go ahead, have a vape, and then we'll go down below and I'll show you what comes in the kit. Okay, and here it is, the Asmodus Spruzza Squonker kit. Let's go ahead and open up the box. So you see we have the Asmodus Spruzza Squonker bottom feeding regulated single 18650 mod and the Fanta RDA. Inside the box, along with your mod and RDA, you're also going to get 2 Allen wrenches, a battery warning sheet, a Asmodus Spruzza manual, which includes the manual for both the RDA and the mod, all of the technical perimeters, safety precautions, how to turn on the device, how to go from power to temp mode, etc. And then you will also get the Asmodus warranty card information, a bag of spares for the RDA, which includes spare O-rings, spare post screws, a regular 510 pin, and a silicone block to block off one side of the RDA for when you have it in single coil mode. And then you also get a set of fused Clapton Oni coils. Go ahead and take a look at the RDA first. This is a 24mm RDA. Comes with a black Delrin drip tip, which is an 810 drip tip. However, the drip tip is an 810 with O-rings. So you'll want to make sure if you use other 810 drip tips that you do use 810 drip tips that have the O-rings on them, since the Fanta RDA does not have a inner O-ring for press fit drip tips. Go ahead and take a look at the bottom. It just says Asmodus Fanta, and it comes with the pre-installed, it comes with the squonking bottom feeding pin. Let's go ahead and take the mod out. Alright, you'll have to forgive me here. I may be a little slow. I'm doing this from a different camera angle today just to see if it makes any improvement. Okay, so looking at the deck, it's a very simple deck. 2 posts, negative and positive. Each post has a single hole for your leads. So when your leads go in, they will sandwich, depending on how big they are, they'll sandwich on top of each other. And the Allen screws, grub screws here, do screw in from the side. Not too deep of a juice well, about a 3mm deep juice well. Enough room for your cotton, and since this is a squonking RDA, not a whole lot of room for juice, but your wicks will be soaking up most of the e-liquid that comes up into the deck. And of course the top cap is a top side airflow. And as you can see, it's very nice clicky O-rings. It can be somewhat difficult to adjust the airflow. The top O-rings are quite stiff, so you have to hold the barrel while you turn that top portion of the cap. So let's go ahead and take off that. And here's your airflow adjustment control. It has 3 airflow holes for dual and single coil. The airflow is cut at an angle downwards to direct your airflow down at the coils. You got some nice heat dissipation fins there at the top to keep the RDA from getting too hot. And the inside of the top cap is nice and conical. So it helps direct that airflow, and of course you have that reduced drip tip that goes down to a smaller size on the inside. Okay, let's go ahead and get some wick, and we'll wick her up. The e-liquid I'll be using today is Hit That Donut Boston Cream Donut. Really good e-liquid. Tastes just like a Boston cream chocolate glazed donut. Okay, now let's go ahead and take a look at the device. So this is a single 18650 Squonk device. It has two removable stab wood panels. On this side you'll see what looks like a light switch. That's actually the lever to the pump, which is connected to a reservoir inside. Let's go ahead and take the panel off. You'll see the panels have 4 magnets, one at each corner, that match up with 4 magnets on the inside at each corner. We can remove the pump and e-liquid reservoir. You'll see here. The reservoir can hold 6 ml of e-liquid. And to fill it, you'll just slide the glass door up. Grab your e-liquid and just fill that liquid reservoir all the way up till right below the gasket. You do not want to fill it above that gasket, because when you close it, the e-liquid will actually leak out. So once you've filled it up, you can push that door back down. You can either push it with 2 fingers, or you can use the lever to push it down. I like to use the lever to get it started, and then the rest of the way I push it with my fingers so as that I don't accidentally start pumping e-liquid out of the top. To reinsert the pump, you'll simply line up the opening of the pump with the plastic tube on the inside. Slide it up, push it back. And there you go, you're filled and ready to go. It should be a fairly clean process. You shouldn't have any leaking or e-liquid coming out of the reservoir or the bottom. Make sure you get that glass slid all the way down, otherwise you may have some leaking down at the bottom here. And usually that's because you haven't gotten the glass all the way slid down past that gasket, or a little bit of e-liquid is maybe dripped on the gasket as you was filling it. So once you have that installed, you can go ahead, and when you're filling the tank for the first, when you're refilling the tank or filling the tank, the first time you fill it, because there's going to be some air in that reservoir and in the pump, you're going to need to give it quite a few pumps. Usually they say up to 10, depending on the RDA and how deep the juice well is. It needs at least 5 for the first time when you fill it. And then after that, I find I usually need 2 to 3 pulls of the lever to resaturate my wicks, just depending on the squonking RDA that you're using. So you can see here that the e-liquid's coming up and filling the deck, and the wicks are absorbing the e-liquid. We can replace our top cap. To power on the device, It'll be 5 clicks of the fire button. Oh, and real quick, before we go over the menu, I'll go ahead and show you the other side, which is where your 18650 battery is. And you'll notice here that the 18650 battery is completely closed off from the chip and the reservoir and pump. So that's nice. So if something were to happen and your reservoir, the glass break, or it start leaking, it's not going to go over here into the battery area, into your contacts. And the same thing with this side. The reservoir is completely closed off from the chip. The only thing that might be of concern is that your USB charging and updating port is located on the side with the reservoir. And to remove your battery, you will simply use your thumb and just push, and that'll pop it out. The battery will go in positive up. To put it in, you'll angle your positive up in, and then just give it a little push up and in on the negative, and your battery slides right in. Both of the doors do have a small notch cut out so that they're easy to grab a hold of and remove. Okay, 5 clicks to power on. So you can notice the screen has a mirrored finish to it. So when the screen is off, it's very reflective. You can actually use this as like a mirror. For me, being a female, I can use this mirror to check my makeup. Okay, now that the screen is on, you'll see that there are no buttons to adjust the wattage or anything. This is a touch screen, just like the Minikin V2 and the other Minikins that are touch screens. So to change the controls, you'll just give it a swipe down. It'll unlock the screen. There is a little lock icon on the screen. So when you slide down, you see that's unlocked. Swipe up for normal. Swipe up again, it'll go to hot, or sorry, swipe up again, it'll go to high, and then swipe, it'll go back to soft, then normal. I like to leave it on normal. If you want to change the power, so you can go from power, swipe to the side, it'll take you to temp, click on the temp. You can change the temp, change the wattage. So if you want to change the temperature, highlight it, and then it'll come up and you can change the temp. Push the fire button once to go back. Click on the wattage, hold it. Same thing, you can change the wattage. Push the fire button to go back. Hold the temp, and you can change your metals. Fire button to go back. Swipe to the right. You can go back to power. Swipe to the left. You can go to temp. You can set your curve. Swipe to the right again. You have your TCR values. Swipe to the right again, you have your TFR values. And then it round robins back to power. And to relock the screen, just press the fire button again. The mod does go up to 80 watts in 0.1 watt increments in power mode, and up to 60 watts in temperature control mode. Okay, and that is the Asmodus Spruzza. Let's go back up top, have a vape, and I'll give you my thoughts and opinions about it. Okay, and that was the up and close of the Spruzza Squonk box. So what do I think about it? I am torn. I really like this Squonk, but I don't care too much for the RDA. So what have I been doing? I've been using the Squonk mod, but with a different RDA to Squonk with it for the most part. So let's first talk about the mod, which is what I really like. I love the beautiful stabwood doors that Asmodus has done on this mod. I also like that they have done something unique and different with the way that you Squonk by including that reservoir with the pump system in it. I think the pump is really great because it eliminates a lot of the hassle that we find with using traditional Squonk bottles, and that is the uninstalling and reinstalling of it, as well as the filling process. With the reservoir, it's very easy to remove and fill up the reservoir, and it creates very little mess, very little hassle. I found that as many times as I've refilled this reservoir, I've not had any issues with spilling or when I'm placing the reservoir in, any e-liquid coming up. And that's a big issue that we see with Squonk bottles, is when you're trying to put the Squonk bottle back in after you filled it. Depending on how soft the Squonk bottle is, sometimes e-liquid will come up out of the bottle on you before you get it pushed up onto the little tube inside, and then you end up with e-liquid running down the bottle. And the same thing with filling it. Trying to hold it only by the little metal ring can be difficult for some people. So I really like this new pump action system that Asmodus has designed for their Squonking mod. The other thing that I really like about it is that it's regulated. So if you're somebody that's not comfortable with mechanical mods, if you're fairly new and you've not gotten into using any kind of unregulated devices, this has all the safety aspects that most users look for when they're just beginning to use mods. And it has a chip that we're already familiar with, which is the same chip that comes on the Mannequin V2, the touchscreen chip. So the menu is pretty easy to operate if you've had any of the previous Asmodus touchscreen devices. Now, some of the downfalls to it. It is a single 18650, so I've tested this thing rigorously for the last 2 weeks, and I found that one VTC5A 18650 battery gets me about 200 puffs on a 0.15 to a 0.2 ohm coil. Right now I've been rocking in this RDA, in this build is a 0.3 ohm, but I'm still running it at about 70 watts. So I was running the previous builds that was a 0.15 to a 0.2 at 70 watts, and at 70 watts I was getting about 200 puffs per battery. Now that is on a VTC5A, so depending on how many milliamp hours your 18650 battery is how much more or less you'll get out of a single battery. But for me, I vape quite a bit, and so an 18650 battery really doesn't last me very long, just an hour or two actually for me. For those that vape less, or those that vape much higher builds at much lower wattage, obviously you'll be able to get more life out of that battery. The mod is a bit pricey. It comes in at about $139.99 that I've seen online. Now that is with the mod and the RDA, no battery. But I think for $139.99, there's a few things that they could have done that they didn't. One of them is they should have included an extra reservoir, or at least an extra gasket and the extra glass for that reservoir, because eventually the gasket inside is going to wear out, and if something happens and you break the glass, you have no replacements in the box for it. So I think at that price point, they should have included an extra glass and some gaskets for that reservoir, or even better, I would have liked to see them include a whole nother second pump and reservoir, so that if you want to have multiple juices, you can actually have several pumps sitting up and ready to be popped in when one empties. The only other con I can really find with the mod itself, is that the design of the doors, it has a lip on each of the doors, which makes it uncomfortable in the hand, because it's kind of not like a sharp edge, but it's not rounded at all. So when you're holding it in the hand, you feel those edges on your hand, and I find that uncomfortable. I don't particularly like mods that don't have rounded edges, because I find that it irritates the area of the hand that it sits in. If you've got sensitive skin there, it may aggravate it. For me, I just wish they would have rounded those edges more so as it would be more comfortable in the hand. The other thing that's kind of subjective is the touch screen. I found that because this touch screen is smaller than the one on the Minikin V2, it's a little difficult to swipe down and then press where you want the next menu step to be. So if you're wanting to change the power, the swiping side to side, sometimes it won't recognize. Sometimes it'll think you're hitting to change the wattage, and it'll go into the wattage screen to change the wattage. So it can be a bit difficult to operate, especially if you've got big fingers. And until you get used to the menu, it can be frustrating to constantly have to swipe to try and get it to unlock and to get to those different menu systems. So that's a subjective con, and that's really the only cons I have about the mod itself. Now for the RDA. The RDA is very nice, sleek, it goes very well with the box mod, but I don't really care for the build deck. The build deck is a just 2-post design with single hole in each one, so your coil leads have to lay on top of each other, and also the posts screw in from the side, so if you've got wider coils, it's going to twist those coil leads and deform your coils, and you'll have to go in and try and straighten those. So I don't particularly care for that, but for what it is, it's a decent RDA. The flavor on the RDA is really good. It doesn't have a whole lot of airflow. It's open, not restrictive, but just on the borderline of restrictive. So if you close down the airflow it's going to become a very restricted direct lung airflow. I like the drip tip that comes with the mod. The only thing is that it is a 810 with O-rings on the drip tip. So if you have goon style drip tips, they won't fit unless you take O-rings off of this drip tip and put them on your 810, and then you'll be able to get to sit in there securely. And that's really all there is to say about the RDA. Like I said, it's not anything special. It does the job. It does it well. It's just not my preferred RDA for squonking. So I usually run my drop RDA on this mod in squonk mode. So that sums up my thoughts on the Spruzza Squonk kit. If you like this video, go ahead and hit the like button. If you're not subscribed already, please hit the subscribe button. And if you are subscribed, don't forget to hit that bell icon so you'll get notified the next time I upload a video. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.